Bill and Helen Bynum are medical historians, but they're also botanical historians, and as such we pioneered a range of tours and cruises with them. What I enjoy about their tours is the way they look at ordinary plants that we know, and they find the fascinating, the inspirational, the different in the everyday life of plants.
Hello, I'm Helen Bynum, and I'm nestled into the Suffolk countryside in the UK. It's not quite like this outside my window, but we do all dream of a white Christmas, don't we? We are, though, hunkering down here in the Northern Hemisphere, putting the garden to bed and thinking of next year's show. It's already winter, according to the meteorological calendar. The 1st of December is the beginning of this neat division of the year into 4 equal segments, each lasting 3 months. A division, it has to be said, that works best in the temperate parts of the globe. The seasons are both real and they're part of our attempt to understand and classify the world around us. Of course, they're reversed in the Southern Hemisphere, and they're differently understood nearer the equator. In the tropics, rainfall and wind may be more important than temperature. Think about the monsoon season, the typhoon season, the hurricane season, and those are generally the seasons you want to avoid when you travel. By the astronomical calendar, here in the north, we're still in autumn. Winter will begin in another few days, which, as I'm sure you know, is on the winter solstice, the 21st and 22nd of December. So the astronomical winter runs from the solstice until the 20th of March next year. This particular calendar reflects the way our planet tilts. If the Earth rotated upright, instead of at an angle of about 23.5 degrees away from the vertical, our experience of the seasons, wherever we lived on the planet, would be quite different. As it is, as our little rock orbits the sun, because of the tilt, the Earth's surface is subject to differences in concentration of solar radiation. Seasonality is a vital part of environmental variability. It strongly shapes all aspects of life. It has been and is a massive generator of our current biodiversity, as organisms have evolved to cope with the many ways and the opportunities created by the changing seasons. It's part of those rhythms we hear much more about these days, the circadian rhythms. For the power of the seasons through the long march of Earth's history, we need to thank Thea. The scientists believe that it was this astral body colliding with the infant Earth that both created the moon and knocked our planet's rotational axis away from the vertical. All this happened about 4.5 billion years ago. It would be another 1 billion years before life began about 3.5 billion years ago. Deep time is so hard to process, but the potentiality of the seasons for the history of life on Earth and for what occurs today, well, it owes a great deal to what was set in train in that collision. And today in the north, days are short and temperatures are cooler. And we know by what we experience, by what our senses tell us, that it's winter. Ice is cold to the touch. We hear the crunch when we walk on frozen grass. We see the slanting light of winter. We see how it cuts the trees into the blackest of silhouettes against the sky. We relish the scents that winter flowers bring into the garden. Who keeps a fragrant or sweet or Christmas box in a plant pot near their door? Or follows their nose on a wintry garden walk to soak up the scent of a hybrid viburnum? Plants are an essential part of the way we mark and understand the seasons. Many of our popular winter flowering shrubs have their origin in Asia. If the Americas opened up the range of garden plants in the 17th and 18th centuries, when the plant hunters made their way eastwards in the 19th and 20th centuries, traveling into China, Taiwan, Korea, and Japan, there was a further explosion in what we could hope to grow here. The Christmas box comes from South Central China. From here and further east and north in this vast country come the parents of our hybrid viburnums. We can all appreciate their beautiful scents, but in their homelands, various plants have specific spiritual, poetic, and seasonal meanings. Despite the diversity in the countries of East Asia, there is a commonality in some meanings, which speaks to shared landscapes, philosophies, culinary, and gardening traditions. Across East Asia, through successive historical periods, pine, bamboo, and flowering plum have been grouped together as the three friends in winter. So what do we have? We have two evergreens, one of which is a conifer tree and the other a giant grass. And then we have a deciduous tree where the blooms open on its bare stems. The three friends in winter seem to have been linked together by the 9th century in Chinese poetry, and by the 13th century in China, in the Song period, their popularity in art was established. And this gave birth to a rich artistic heritage, where the plants, often highly stylized, appeared as a repeated motif on scrolls and screens and innumerable decorative objects. They were also copied and reproduced beautifully on textiles. So what do these three plants mean? Well, pine trees keep their green needles through the winter months. They're evergreens. And indeed, winter allows them to come into their true glory. Deciduous trees offered a powerful show of autumn colour, but this fell to the ground, and then the verdancy of evergreens came quietly to the fore. The Chinese literati came to regard pines as symbols of an ideal personality. Just as these trees remained green beneath the snows and other trials of winter, a person was to keep his integrity in the face of difficulties. The solidity of the trunk spoke of a strong heart. A person who cultivated a strong heart would be steadfast and not surrender to challenges. Their long-livedness spoke to the Taoist goal of longevity. Bamboo looks very delicate, but its hollow stem is pliable, and because it bends in strong winds and does not break, it symbolizes flexibility. This was translated into a moral strength. One might bend, but not break. If it was accommodating to life's rigors, bamboos were also admired for their incredible versatility. Westerners were familiar with what you could do with a pine tree, but when they stepped more deeply into the bamboo technologies of China, Korea, and Japan in the 19th century, they were astonished at the number of uses to which this timber-like herb was put. What might have been made of wood and metal elsewhere, here was made of bamboo. The plum flowers, or a flowering plum or Japanese apricot, the Prunus mumi or May or Umi, is said to herald the spring to come. The blossoms symbolize rejuvenation and vigor, despite their apparent delicacy. They speak to durability under stress. The plum blossom has 5 petals. The number 5 is an auspicious number in Chinese culture through its association with the 5 primordial elements of which everything is composed. These are water, fire, wood, metal, and earth. The number of the petals also reflects the 5 traditional blessings of longevity, prosperity, health, virtue, and a natural death. In the Han Dynasty, so from 206 BC to about 200 AD, May orchards were established for the sour fruits that these trees bear. And these were preserved and used in many different ways as condiments and liquors. Their delightful blossoms gradually attracted attention in their own right. Because they flowered during the cold weather of the Chinese New Year, cultivation of the plants diversified from the field to the garden. Here, they were carefully shaped so that the views from dedicated viewing pavilions were optimized. Prunus mumi were further domesticated by the miniaturization techniques of penying in China and bonsai in Japan. Full-size branches were cut and brought into the house. The flowers are short-lived, and this attribute was deliberately juxtaposed with the tree's longevity when discussing the virtues of the flowering plum. These and other traits were captured in a famous mid-13th century painting and poetry manual called the Register of Plum Blossom Portraits. Each poem was illustrated with a full-page woodcuts, and there were 100 woodcuts. This was part instruction book and part subtle protest against the Mongol rulers who had invaded China. The legacy of such artists, their decorative patterns, and the ability to express discontent through art continues to inspire, just as the blossoms themselves do. Looking to round off this talk, I was intrigued to learn that in 1964, Taiwan, or the Republic of China, chose the Prunus mumi as its national flower. National plants are not always native to the countries that choose them for their floral identity or marker, but this is not the case for Taiwan. The official website of the Taiwanese government refers to the resilience of the flowers. The triple grouping of stamens, one long and two short, are taken to represent the original three principles of the people from the 1911 revolution. So these principles are nationalism, democracy, and socialism. And the 5 petals are taken to symbolize the 5 branches of the Republic of China's government. An intimate association drawn from nature in this politically contested part of the world. We normally travel to cheat the seasons and to learn about how others live and think and appreciate the natural world. There's nothing new in this. Like the circadian rhythms, the curiosity that drives travel is a deep part of who we are. In the past, during our travels over the millennia, we have moved plants across the globe to sustain us gastronomically, medically, materially, and spiritually. All 4 are forms of nurture. Indeed, in a single word, nurture sums up what plants can do for us. Very familiar to those like Michael with a holistic view of health, or Nell at the Chelsea Physic Garden, this strange year of 2020 has reinforced how important plants are to our well-being and how connecting with nature and learning from this intimacy is fruitful, possibly essential. So my advice for a happy Xmas and 2021, make sure you touch, taste, see, smell, and make time to listen to the sounds of plants.